The news that will shake the foundations of Spanish football and that will mark a before and after in the relationship of FC Barcelona with the referee system has just jumped. Hansi Flick, a man who is characterized by his elegance, his German phlegm and his institutional respect, has said enough. What we have experienced today at Camp Nou has not been a sports elimination. It has been the consumption of a robbery that began to cook in the Metropolitano. Barça has won 3-0, has passed over an Atletico de Madrid minusculo, but has been left out of the final by a global of 4-3. Why is Flick there? Because football has memory and cameras too. Flick's public complaint against Barça is not a rabble of a bad loser. It is a formal accusation of theft based on those fateful 5 minutes of review in the first leg that annulled a legal goal to Pau Cubarsí. A goal that, today we know with the data in hand, would have given us the direct pass to the final of the Copa del Rey. We are facing a scandal of biblical proportions. Imagine the scene, first leg, Barça tries to react and Cubarsí scores a goal that put the 4-1. A goal that gave life, but Barça decided that it was time to intervene surgically. 5 minutes? They spent 5 minutes looking for a nail, a millimeter, an invisible excuse to cancel what everyone saw as legal. Flick has made it clear in the press conference. The VAR has taken away our classification. It is not an empty phrase if that goal goes up to the scoreboard in Madrid. Today's 3-0 in Barcelona put us in overtime with a sunken Atleti. But it does not matter that this Barça of the young, this Barça that practices the best football in Europe, reaches the finals. It is more comfortable to allow the other football, that of the losses of time or the endless revisions, to come out with its own. Today in football we are going to expose this complaint step by step, because Barcelonismo cannot keep quiet about what is, technically, a manipulation of the global result of a tie. Before continuing, Cule, I need you to join this fight. If today you feel that knot in your stomach, that mix of pride for seeing your team win 3-0 and rage for seeing how they take away what is yours in the offices, you have to be here. Subscribe to Football Al Dia right now. We are the channel that is not afraid to point to the bar, that is not afraid to talk about the 5 minutes of shame, and that defends the Flick project to the death. Activate the bell, because what we are going to tell today about the out-of-game measurements of Lewandowski and the double stick of measuring with the penalty to the Minimal is going to raise blisters. Don't let them tell you about the official movie from Madrid. Here we analyze the facts, the minutes and the robbery that has left us without the final we deserved. Flick's indignation is the reflection of a fan who is fed up. Winning 3-0 to Atletico de Madrid in a cup round should be a reason for national celebration. But the shadow of the departure is too long. Flick has denounced that the semi-automatic system was used in a malicious way. How is it possible that to cancel a goal to Barça it takes an eternity, and to review a penalty in favor of the Minimal it takes 0 seconds because it is not even looked at? That is the key to the complaint. It is not just a mistake. It is a trend. The Barça of the kids, the Barça of Bernal and Cubarsí, is too dangerous for the status quo. Today, 3-0 is the proof of cotton. Barça was better in 180 minutes, but the VAR decided that Atletico should pass. We are going to analyze every second of those 5 minutes of review. Why is there and not on the grass is where we lost the tie. If there is something that allows us to sleep with our heads up today, it is knowing that FC Barcelona has found its new defensive leader for the next 15 years. What Pau Cubarsí did tonight at Camp Nou is one of the greatest defensive displays that are remembered in the modern history of the club. At only 16 years old, Cubarsí did not play a football game. He gave a hierarchy, anticipation and courage that reminded us, word for word, of the best years of Carles Puyol. He did not tremble at the pulse of Griezmann. He did not groan at the power of Julian Alvarez and corrected each mistake of his teammates with a scary maturity. Cubarsí was the wall on which 3-0 was built. He was the man who allowed Barça to turn his entire team on the attack because we knew that there was a titan watching the border from behind. Technically, Cubarsí's game was perfect. He won 100% of his aerial duels, made interceptions that cut off imminent goal plays, and had a ball out that broke Simeone's first line of pressure over and over again. But the most important thing was his captain's soul. In the moments of maximum tension, when the athlete tried to sleep the game with tricks, Cubarsí was the one who raised his teammates, the one who asked for intensity, the one who embodied the spirit of Shark Puyol. It is incredible to think that the VAR stole from this boy the goal of his life in the first leg, a goal that would have crowned a perfect tie. Despite that robbery, Cubarsí did not lose his temper. On the contrary, he came back with a rage contained that completely dried up the mattress attack. Julian Alvarez, the star signing of Atleti, ended the desperate game without having been able to shoot a goal not once with clarity because of Pau's shadow. Cubarsí's tactical analysis of the vigilances deserves a separate chapter in the strategy books. Flick entrusted him with the suicide mission of scoring in an open field to the strikers of Atletico while Barca pressed up. And he did it without undressing. Cubarsí reads football a second before everyone else. He knows where the ball is going to fall before the passer decides the destination. That intuition is what differentiates a good central from a legend. Today, Barcelona has crowned a 16-year-old boy as the heir to Puyol's throne. If Carles Puyol was the heart, Cubarsí is the brain and soul of this new defense. Seeing him celebrate each cut as if it were a goal, seeing him cheer the stands and seeing him send over veterans of war is the best news we could receive on a night of elimination. But of course, the rage comes back when you think that this display of talent has not had the prize of the final. Cubarsí saved the team over and over again, allowing Bernal and Rapina to do their job up. He was the guardian of a dream that Barca sabotaged. How do you explain to a 16-year-old boy who has played like a legend who does not go to the final because someone decided to take 5 minutes in Madrid looking for an out-of-game non-existent? Flick knows it, and that is why in his public denunciation he has defended his young people above all. Cubarsí has shown that Barca has a central for a decade, and Atletico de Simeone goes home knowing that they have suffered a child who has given them a lesson in sportsmanhood. Immense pride for Pau because today the world has seen the new Puyol. If Cubarsí's thing was monumental, Marc Bernal's thing touches the miraculous. We are talking about a player who came from a very serious knee injury. A boy who had not finished a 90-minute game since August. 6 months of calvary, of gymnastics, of doubts and pain. And suddenly, Hansi Flick gives him the alternative in the most important game of the season. In a semi-final round where we played our lives. And what does Bernal do? Not only does he endure the 90 minutes with an overhuman physical intensity, but he scores 2 goals that put Atletico de Madrid on the verge of nervous collapse. Bernal's double is not just statistics, it is the triumph of will over adversity. Marc Bernal has returned to tell Spanish football that Barca's midfield has a new owner. Bernal's first goal in the 29th minute was a burst of joy that changed the atmosphere of Montjuic. An electric play from Lamine Jamal for the band. A precise center and there was Bernal, coming from behind like a veteran who knows exactly where the ball is going to be dead. It was not a goal of luck, it was a goal of reading the game. But it is that the second, the one that put 3-0, was pure heart. Bernal finished off a side center with the anger of those who have spent months suffering off the field. At that moment, with 3-0, Barca was 1 goal away and Bernal was the absolute hero of the night. A player who was in crutches a while ago, today he was kneeling in defense of Simeone. It is a story of overcoming that only occurs in this club, where young people seem to feed on pressure. Let's analyze Bernal's physical deployment. He did not lower his arms for a second. He recovered balls in the front of his area and seconds later, he appeared in the opposite area to finish off. That ability of box-to-box is what Flick was looking for to modernize the style of Barca. Bernal stole, distributed with criteria and reached the area. Pedri, next to him, found the perfect partner to organize the chaos. Seeing Bernal endure the 90 minutes after so much time injured is a testimony of the incredible work of the club's medical services and the blind faith that Flick has in this boy. The athlete never knew how to cover his arrivals. Coke and DePaul were overcome by the dynamism of a kid who played with the hunger of those who want to recover the lost time. However, the bitterness is total when you realize that Bernal's double has not served to pass. Football owes a bitter Bernal. If the VAR had not done its thing on the move, today Bernal would be the man deported around the world as the artifice of the greatest comeback of the decade. He scored 2, but he deserved those goals to be worth a final. Flick took him to the locker room with an embrace that said it all. You have fulfilled, it seemed to say, and go if he fulfilled. Bernal has shown that he is to be an undisputed starter, that his knee is forgotten and that his talent is infinite. Pride for Bernal, anger for the result. 3-0 leads to his signature. A signature that Barcelonismo will never forget because today we have recovered a total player. Let's talk about magic and sacrifice. Pedri and Lamine Yamal were in charge of putting pure talent on the rug of Montjuic. Pedri's was an exhibition of physical and mental resistance that few expected. He played the full 90 minutes, stealing impossible balls and filtering passes that broke two defensive lines with a single touch. But the most exciting thing was to see his commitment. When Koundé and Valde were injured, and Barça ran out of changing windows, Pedri was at the limit. Flick wanted to protect him, he wanted to get him out of the field to avoid a rebound. But Pedri refused. He looked at the bench and said, "I'm staying, I can do more." That gesture of staying in the field, risking his physique for the comeback, is what defines a player who feels the colors. Pedri was the brain that allowed 3-0 to be possible, organizing each attack with a game vision that is at another level. And what about Lamine Yamal? At 18, Lamine played a game that Messi would sign on his best cup nights. It was a constant nightmare for Ruggieri and for the entire left wing of Atletico. He assisted in the first goal to Bernal with a dribble that left his marker sitting and generated the penalty that Raphinha turned into 2-0. Every time Lamine touched the ball, the stadium rose. That feeling that something is going to happen. That electricity that only the chosen ones have. Lamine not only dribbles, Lamine decides. He was the player who received the most fouls, the one who tried the most, and the one who was about to put the fourth in the 95th minute with his classic thread that went for millimeters. Seeing a boy his age lead the attack of a team that is looking for an impossible comeback is something that only happens at Barça. Technically, the connection between Pedri and Lamine is the biggest asset that Hansi Flick has right now. Pedri finds the space and Lamine exploits it. Today, against Simeone's low block, that partnership was lethal. Atletico had to put up to 3 players to try to stop Lamine. What freed up space for Pedri to manage the rhythm at his whim. It was a football dance that was only interrupted by the physical hardness of the mattress players and by the lack of a last goal that would do justice to the deployment of both. Pedri finished the match exhausted, almost unable to walk, but with the satisfaction of having given everything. Lamine ended up crying on the grass, aware that they had been left with only one step from glory. The anger comes when you analyze that these two geniuses were victims of Simeone's stopwatch strategy. While Pedri and Lamine wanted to create, Atletico wanted to destroy time. Every foul on Lamine was a lost minute. Every draw in favor of Pedri was an eternal discussion. It is frustrating to see how the purest talent in the world is stopped by extra sports tricks allowed by refereeing. Pedri and Lamine's Barça won the match 3-0, swept the opponent and showed that the future is theirs. If the VAR had not stolen that goal on the move, today we would be talking about how these two kids have led Barça to a historic final. But football, sometimes, rewards those who destroy and punishes those who create. Pride for his delivery, rage for the outcome. Now we enter the field of the complaint that Hansi Flick has launched and that we in football today will back up with all the data. Flick is not a coach who complains about vice. If Flick has gone out to publicly denounce the VAR for theft, it is because what happened on the move in the Metropolitano is an insult to the competition. Let's remember the fact. Minute 58 of the first leg. Barça scores 4-1 through Cubarsi. A goal that changed the tie that gave us life. Well, the VAR takes 5 full minutes to review the play. 5 minutes for what? To desperately look for a Lewandowski offside that did not intervene in the play. 5 minutes looking for a way to cancel the goal. Flick has been sharp. In 5 minutes you can invent anything. And he's completely right. Technically, the offside should only beep if the player interferes with the game or hinders the goalkeeper's vision. Lewandowski was there, yes, but the ball didn't even go near him and didn't bother Musso. Canceling that goal by millimeters after an eternal review is a manipulation of the VAR spirit. The VAR was born to correct clear and manifest errors, not to look with a millimeter magnifying glass for an excuse to cancel a legal goal. Flick denounces that those 5 minutes of review were a hunt against Barça. If that goal had been in favor of Atletico, we all know that it would have been reviewed in 30 seconds and would have gone up to the scoreboard. That double measure shot is what made the German coach explode. But Flick's complaint goes beyond a single goal. Speaks of a trend. In that same away game, there was a very clear penalty in favor of the Mini Yamal that was not even reviewed. Why does it take 5 minutes to cancel a goal to Barca and not even 5 seconds to beep a penalty in favor? That is the question that RFEF has to answer. Flick has denounced that the VAR has conditioned the classification. And the numbers are right. Barca has lost the tie by a global 4-3. If Cubarsi's legal goal in the first leg had not been stolen, the global would be 4-4 and today we would be in the extension after 3-0 at Montjuic. The VAR has taken away from Barca the possibility of fighting for the title in equal conditions. Flick has said that Spanish football has a problem of credibility with technological arbitration. He does not understand how with so many cameras and so much technology, such flagrant mistakes can be made that always harm the same side. Flick's anger is the anger of all Barcelonismo. Seeing your team win 3-0 and knowing that you are left out for a crime committed a kilometer away a week ago is unbearable. Flick has taken a step forward that Xavi already took at the time. But with the authority of a technician who comes from outside and who cannot believe the level of manipulation that exists here. In football, we support this complaint 100% a day. It was not an elimination. It was a planned robbery that was executed in those 5 minutes of review in Madrid. We reached the end of this night of emotions in full swing. The final balance is a paradox that only football can explain. We have been eliminated, but we feel stronger than ever. 3-0 to Atletico de Madrid in a round of semifinals. With a team full of 16 and 18-year-olds, it is a message for the whole world. The Barca of Hansi Flick is here to stay and to dominate. The pride we feel today for Cubarsi, for Bernal, for Pedri and for Lamine is a pride that cannot be bought with titles. These players have left their skin, they have played injured, they have endured the 90 minutes to the limit of their strength and they have shown that the Barca shield defends itself with football and with heart, not with tricks. The rage for the robbery of the bar is real and must serve us as fuel. Flick has marked the path by denouncing injustice. But the team has marked the path on the grass by demonstrating that they are technically superior to any rival in Spain. Atletico de Simeone is going to the final, but they are going with fear in their bodies and knowing that they have passed through the back door. Barcelonismo today does not whistle. Barcelonismo today praises.